kind of random.
What up, y'all? Welcome to another episode of That Time in Hip Hop, a podcast about the history and nostalgia of hip hop, but more importantly, the preservation of hip hop music and culture. I am your host, Vegas of Hip Hop Now podcast. With me, as always, the homie Tony of IntoTheDome.com. What else, man?
What's going on, man? Look, drinking some nice craft beer tonight. I'm in my wife's office, as you can see, with the the colors and stuff in the back because my man came downstairs. The connection's not all that great, so you don't see my little music background like yours. I see the 36 chambers in the back and X, and I'm feeling real hip hopish right now. You know what I'm saying? But we doing all right over here, man, down in NC.
Yeah, it's all good, man. Just for the people watching at home, this is the part that looks nice for this particular video. I'm in the garage. It don't look nice over there. Trust me. But yo, if you watch it for the very first time or it's been a long time, we've been doing this for a minute. So we got a couple of episodes that you can check out in the past, about 50 of them. Please know that you can go to IntoTheDome.com. And not only there is the audio version of this podcast, but the video version and so much other content, from articles that Tone has written to so much, and not just hip hop, but so much content there. So remember to subscribe, read some articles, watch some of the podcasts. We got so many in store for you, and we're available on every podcasting app. All you got to do is search for Hip Hop Now podcast, and in that same feed, you'll find That Time in Hip Hop. Now, we got a little thing we like to do at the beginning of the show called This Month in Hip Hop. Used to be this week, but now it's this month. And on April 20th, 420, 1999, MF Doom released his debut solo album, Operation Doom. Now, Tone, listen, man. When this dropped, 1999, we on the cusp. We in the springtime of the year 2000, the last boom or whatever. MF Doom comes out of nowhere with this new album, Operation Doom. First time you heard it, what was your thoughts?
Look, man, I remember him from way back in the Peach Fuzz, I think, in KMD and all that stuff like that. And so I was surprised when I found out that he was actually MF Doom, dude from KMD. So I was like, wow, it's crazy. You know what, man? I had heard about him as Doom, but when I first heard the album, I was like, damn, you know what? John is pretty slick, very unorthodox style, though. You know what I'm saying? His rhymes, he didn't sound like anyone else, which is always refreshing because, 99 is the year after a huge 1998 year in hip hop where it became more commercialized. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. But it was still some grimy stuff out there as well. But Doom was kind of one of the first underground kings of the new era. You know what I'm saying? He became that, generated a cult following, had that mask on, very colorful, adventurous rhymes. Like I said, man, very creative, man. So when I heard, I said, man, then I found out, he made beats too. You know what I'm saying? He made beats and he made beats, and the production was dope. The samples was dope. Man, I thought it was really dope. And you know what? It actually aged very well because I played it last weekend when I was cutting my grass, and I was like, damn, this Doomsday joint is, it really sounds good in 2020, man. You know what I'm saying? Really and let me say this real quick, and I put this on Twitter. I actually like it better than the Mad Lib joint he did. The collabo, I know that Mad Villain joint is underground legendary classic album and got like 5 stars in all music, and I get it. But I listened to both of them recently, like I said, and dude, that joint, the MIC on their Operation Doom Day, it was on repeat the other night, man. It's dope. It's dope. What about you?
Yeah, man, 1999 when I was like in peak newborn radio host mode. And like I was, getting mad records coming in from record pools, and MF Doom, Operation Doomsday was one of them. And I just remember initially I just wasn't a fan because I was just like, yo, like, what is this? This under the underground, 5 dudes know it type music, you know what I'm saying? And so I was like, I don't know if I'm gonna play that. And I remember a couple of people hit me up, a couple of listeners to the show hit me up saying like, "Yo, when you gonna play that Doom, that MF Doom?"
Yep.
So I was like, "All right, I can't pick them just because I like them. I gotta go with what people want to hear." So I remember like listening to it, and at the time, I didn't know that MF Doom was also Zev Love X of KMD. So I was like, "Well, wait a minute. I used to love him as a rapper. So if this is what he doing is different, let me check it out." And I just remember listening to it like twice back then. Obviously, I own it now. And I was like, I can see how people really get into this because it's different. That's what makes it dope. That's what
Yeah.
makes it hip hop. That's what
Yeah.
kind of elevates it. It doesn't have to fit the same rhythm, the same type of beat. It's unpredictable, but it's dope all the same. So I mean, it grew on me over time, obviously, because I was big into a lot of things that was happening around that time, including doing a show, graduating college, and all that was happening.
Mm-hmm.
But absolutely, I agree with you. Like, I don't have the same feelings that universally hip hop fans feel about Mad Villainy as being like, his best album. This is more of my speed. You know what I'm
Mine
saying? Like,
too.
this is more of a like throw your hoodie on type music. You know what I'm saying? And
Mm-hmm.
just head nod. So I definitely enjoyed it. MF Doom, Operation Doomsday, 1999. Do
Yep.
you own the album? What were your thoughts when it came out? Maybe you got onto MF Doom later on. Have you heard this one? Leave your comments in the comment section below. Let us know what you think about it. But now we're going to get into the topic of the show. And Tone, man, we done touched on this brother in this particular year and these particular albums a couple of times in our past podcasts. So I felt like it was only right that we really take a deep dive and look at what was accomplished in the year 1998. Tell the people what we're here to talk about.
First, let me say this: in hip hop, hip hop's probably what 45 years old, maybe something like that. There's only there's been a few times where an MC came like a thunderstorm, man, came and just shook up the culture, shook up New York if that's the case, shook up the West Coast if that's the case, in the South. You don't see it all the time. That's why when it happens, it's so special. And the brother today, brother Earl Simmons, aka Dark Man X, aka DMX, when he came, man, in 1998. Now, of course, he was on the underground years before that. He had a joint called Born Loser and all this stuff like that, but it didn't pop off. So we're gonna just talk about 1998 when it finally really popped. It done little verses here and there, but when Get At Me Dog came out, that's when Cass was like, "Yo, you know what? This dude really, really serious. We heard him, with the locks or this person, a little verse here and there. We heard about him freestyling in the streets, he knocked us in Harlem and all this. But okay, the dude can make a record. You know what I'm
Mm-hmm.
saying? And then it anticipated, okay, we want to hear what an actual album is gonna sound like. And what DMX did in 1998, not only did he drop a classic debut, he did what no other MC ever done. He dropped two albums that debuted #1 on the billboards in the same calendar year. Let me give you some context for that. Before that, 2 years before that, it did happen, but it didn't happen the way it happened with DMX. Tupac did have two albums in 1 year that
Mm-hmm.
debuted at #1 on the Billboard. All Eyes on Me early that year, and of course the 7 Day Theory Machiavelli in September. The difference is, unfortunately, when Machiavelli dropped, Tupac had passed away,
Mm-hmm.
which makes DMX essentially the first MC to ever debut at #1 with two albums in the same calendar year. You're talking about someone who shook up rap, was on fire, from the features to the videos and the tunnel. You know what I'm saying? To just everything. He started that year off with Get At Me Dog. He turns around and does Stop Being Greedy in March. And then in May the 12th, the album dropped. But right before the album dropped on May the 12th, man, I have to say this. They were so smart in calculating the release of singles that the Rough Rider anthem dropped 7 days before the album dropped. Now, if you remember, people, the Rough Rider anthem it started the whole movement with the bikes again. You
Mm-hmm.
know, it started the whole movement, just another street vibe. You know what I'm saying? And you dropped that bomb right before the album dropped, and needless to say, he damn near went gold in the first week. You know what I'm saying? So, and then you go through the summer, still releasing singles, still high level performances and things like that. He on that Hard Knock Life tour with Jay-Z. You know,
Yep.
they ripping everything up, and you know what I'm saying, that year or what have you. And then you come that summer, well, leading to the fall with slipping releases, or
Mm-hmm.
I guess it started on mixtapes and stuff like that, Clue and all that. They're like, oh, X is back again with slipping. But I
Yeah.
didn't know he was going to drop another album. That I was thinking, you know, it's just something to keep the streets warm. It's deep. It's on the other side of them again or whatever. I didn't know that Flesh of My Flesh was coming the same year.
Same year. Yeah.
So man, like just, and I know we're gonna go in detail and everything, but just thinking of 1998 with DMX doing that. What was your thoughts on how impressed were you? Because thinking of 1998, Aquemini came out with Outkast, Jay-Z,
Yep.
the Volume 2 Hard Knock Life came out,
Yep.
Big Pun, Capital Punishment came out,
Yep.
Black started the underground movement with Rockers again with that Black
Yep.
Star album with Most Def and Talib Kweli. We talking about Nori drops the Nore album, if I'm not mistaken.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Yep.
you know, Big Pun, Capital Punishment, we talking about a landmark year, and DMX finds a way to drop two critically acclaimed albums the same year, man. That's crazy.
Yeah, man. Like in retrospect, just like thinking about that just seems ridiculous because everybody's in competition lyrically, beat wise, music videos, where you charting because hip hop is starting to make money. And I think the thing that generally gets said about DMX that I didn't get initially is the fact that he kind of brought the streets back to the hits, because it's not to say that there wasn't street rap around, but as far as the radio between Bad Boy and Jay-Z or Rockefeller or whatever and a couple of other artists, there was a lot of like radio friendly sounding records, you know what I'm saying, as far as beats and what they rapped about. And DMX was none of that.
No.
Now, initially, I remember like I was overwhelmed because Pun was new on the scene and he was a monster. You know what I'm saying? So, and I was a big Jay-Z fan. So I had all these distractions. And I remember I was during the summer was working in downtown Brooklyn at this joint called Sneaker Stadium, which is now gone. I think it's Models or something. It's right next to the Barclay where it was. So, it was like a hot spot for this huge sneaker store, whatever, which only lasted the summer. And so, we always had hip hop bumping, and Tone named like damn near half of the playlist that was bumping out them speakers while we selling sneakers during the bars during the summer. And I just remember like, yo, that Pun is crazy.
Yep.
Yo, Jay, you heard Jay on this mixtape and blah, blah, blah. And there's one dude at my job was like, yo, you need to be fucking with X. And I remember my first thing was like, that nigga that be barking? Like, right. Nah, man, you hear the way Pun spitting with this little fiddly diddly, all that shit. You hear that shit? Even Nori album's crazy. Maxwell had a second album out. I know it ain't hip hop, but I was hyped. But I just remember like not giving DMX a chance till I heard Get At Me, dog. Now, that beat is one of my favorite beats of all time.
Yeah.
And he was killing that shit. And the remix with the Locks was even crazier. And I just remember saying, man, this joint is hot. And then Rough Riders Anthem and, all the different records that was on that first album was like, damn, I need to jump aboard. You know what I'm saying? This dude is hot. He is kind of bringing that feeling of, the streets back to hip hop. So I was really like, I don't know. I was amazed that, I don't know. I felt like hip hop was branching out, you know what I'm saying? Like in sound. Because remember when the Source had that cover? I think we did it when we did the Source magazine joint. We probably mentioned it, but that cover of like the new generation,
yeah, absolutely,
kind of like in the aftermath shadow of Biggie and Tupac dying, and Silk the Shocker was on there, Cannabis, Fun, Cameron, DMX,
Yep.
a couple other people I can't remember.
That was a dope. That was nice foreshadowing.
Yeah, that was nice foreshadowing because that's exactly what it felt like when you turned on the radio, when you bought these albums. But yeah, I was just so surprised that DMX, even though I didn't feel like he was lyrically on the level of, let's say, a pun, I felt like he was just important, just as dope. He was actually a compliment to some of those guys because he was so different.
But you know what? But at the same time, yeah, he wasn't gonna be the super lyrical pun, but most people aren't. But
Yeah.
DMX lyrics, some people think that you have to rhyme like Pharoah Monch or the Jizzle to be a dope lyricist. See, Tupac was a dope lyricist, but he wasn't lyrical in the sense of what people think is lyrical. You know what I'm saying? Like KRS One was lyrical, but he wasn't lyrical like Rakim and G Rap. If you read their rhymes on paper, but he was lyrical. You know what I'm saying? So I think sometimes people kind of get that twisted. DMX was lyrical in his own right. He was able to get his point across in a dope way because he's a dope MC. You know what I'm saying? And the reason why that year was so big with him was because DMX could do a little bit of everything. You know what I'm saying? He had to get at me, dog. The videos in the tunnel, the black and white joints. He can have something like how it's going down about the chicks, and the chicks was digging DMX at the time too. You know what I'm saying? So he can have the highs going down. You know, so he can have the Rough Rider joint do it like a street anthem. You know what I'm saying? He can turn around that same year leading up to Flesh of My Flesh with something deep and thought provoking like Slipping. You know what I'm saying? And that shows his depth on a different level. We knew he was deep on some of the songs on It's Dark and Hell is Hot. He has prayer at the end. But Slipping showed you know what? That's when a lot of people start saying, dude kind of reminded me of Pac right now. You know what I'm saying? His passion and stuff is starting to seep into the culture, man. And it's more than just him being a hardcore MC. We feel this cat. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, exactly. Because they're more Tupac and DMX. I wouldn't call them lyricists how hip hop calls people lyricists, like a Black Thought and whatever, where it's more wordplay. They're more songwriters to me. You know what I'm saying? Like, they can write songs because people who can write songs well make, like you said, you feel them. You feel them on a totally different level. You kind of react to lyricists like, oh shit, you heard what he said, blah, 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 blah. Like a calculation, like a math problem. But DMX hits you on a deeper level. And to me, that's a sign of a dope songwriter and a performer because he can write whatever you want. If you can't execute it, you ain't gonna be able to touch people in the way that he did. So I agree, totally agree.
I remember this. Jay-Z said on interviews years ago that during that Hard Knock Life tour, he took little tidbits from DMX and saw the passion DMX showed on stage, and it inspired him to give more on stage as opposed to when they used to just kind of stand there and just spit rhymes. They was having more interaction with the crowd and walking back and forth. Yeah, he wasn't bouncing around like a DMX and Redman and Method Man when it was on tour. I remember seeing them live down here in North Carolina. The DMX, when he came on stage, the crowd, it went up a notch. You know what I'm saying? The excitement, everything went up a notch. And I saw DMX again just a couple of years ago with Nas here in North Carolina. And with X got that feeling with the crowd, it went up again. You know what I'm saying? And he want to open up. You know what I'm saying? But I'm just saying, as far as, like you said, getting your point across, man, being able to perform is a talent on stage. And X was able to execute that without dropping 2 big albums. And, It's Dark is, I would say it's a 5-mic album. You know what I'm saying? From the intro, the skits, the Dame Grease killed the production. You know what I'm saying? I mean, it was consistent all the way through, and it was dark all the way through. You know what I'm saying? I thought it hit its peak. You know what I mean? It still sounds great today when I'm riding through in the car. You know what I'm saying? I still feel it. Flesh of My Flesh was a dope follow-up. I would give it. I'll give the first one a 5 out of 5. I'll give the second one a 4 out of 5, and it still hit its mark too, man. Who can say they did that in a year, man? It's crazy.
Yeah, I think the thing also when you think about DMX and what he did in that year with those 2 albums, it wasn't just him. Also, it was it was the images, it was the videos, and Dame, like you said, Dame Grease and Swiss Beats, the production that I don't know, it just matched his energy level to a T, and it was so different from what everybody else was doing as far as beat wise. Like you can look at certain artists and see they were kind of digging for the same type of beats, whether it was for radio or just B sides on their album.
And
But with
X what?
yeah, DMX, it it matched his beats matched the grittiness of his rhymes. You know what I'm saying? The grittiness of his voice. You know what I'm saying? Having the two dogs. It didn't seem like, and for some people who don't know, that was around the shiny suit era. You know what I'm saying? The shiny suit era was close to there. So a lot of videos was pop champagne and, be dressed out and, then fedoras and derbies. And a lot of it was that. And his DMX, no shirt, extra baggy pants, drawers showing, dogs on chains looking like they about to just eat you alive. And then you got these hard beats, these hard lyrics, and it's hits. Like that's what I think people are not understanding. Like you said, Tony, these are hit records that he's dropping, meaning it ain't just for one audience. Everybody's enjoying DMX music.
Yeah, what's funny too? I was watching an old interview of Irv Gotti. Everyone knows Irv Gotti had a very close relationship with DMX to help get him in the game and stuff like that. He said he remember Leo Cohen seeing DMX perform somewhere or something like that, and he told Irv Gotti, "We got the pick of the litter." You know what I'm saying? And you can watch that interview on YouTube. He said we got the pick of the litter, and it's like so. I graduated in 1998 from college. I remember before graduation, I had a DJ Clue mixtape, and I'm skimming it. You know what I'm saying? I copped it from this dude in the street. I'm skimming or whatever, and I get to this song called "Crime Story" by DMX. And of course, I hadn't heard "Stop Being Greedy." Hadn't heard any of his stuff outside of a verse here and there, a feature. When I heard "Crime Story," I remember telling my man, I said, "Dog, this DMX dude, this Crime Story joint is hard." They ended up being on the album. But I was just like, man, something about him, the way he attacked the track. I said, we're gonna hear from this dude again. This something, dude got something special. You know what I'm saying? And a lot of times when these big expectations hit, when people heard "Get At Me, Dog," I'm sure there were some people like, I wanted this dude a one-trick pony. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Then you get that, the other track, "Get At Me, Dog," "Stop Being Greedy." Okay, it's another hot joint. Okay, that's cool. And a Rough Rider anthem. Okay, now it's getting real serious. We're anticipating this album. But I'm sure there was still some doubt saying, but can he do that for 15, 16 songs? So back then, the albums had 15, 16 tracks on it. And trust me, when I first went to the record store and copped that joint, and I went track to track, halfway through, I said, damn, he did it. I hadn't even got the highs going down yet, none of that shit, or the joint, the locks, and none of that. But by the time I got halfway, probably to that Damien track or something, I was like, oh, he's for real.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, he did it, man. Like, oh, this is going to be large. And it was, man.
Yeah, I was one of those doubters because you see everybody doing, like when you see everybody doing the same thing and it's successful, especially when a bunch of MCs at the time are all competing lyrically for top of the charts, for money, whatever it may be, you know what I'm saying, from Nas to Jay-Z to everybody, you think there's a standard as to how you should rhyme, how you should sound, and if you ain't equal to that or better than that, then we can't expect much out of you. So I know I was that dude, like, this Get At Me Dog joint is hot. Okay, the older remix is hot. And I think I heard Stop Being Greedy. I was like, yo, that one's kind of hot too. And I think, like you said, Tone, once I heard that beat to Rough Riders Anthem and let alone the remix, I was like, oh, this the new label. This the new movement right now. This is what it is. Rough Riders, DMX leading the way. It was crazy. And then also, even with those albums, like I remember the first time I heard Money, Power, Respect off of the Lox debut album. the Locks featuring Lil Kim on the hook and DMX.
Yeah.
I just remember hearing DMX verse and saying that's the best verse on this song. Like, and this is prime Jadakiss,
That is
prime
true.
Sheek, prime Styles P. Even Lil Kim was huge at the time, and DMX goes last and kills it.
He
Even
did
to
kill
this
it.
day. What'd you say?
Yeah, he did kill it.
He killed it. And you know, there's other joints like Murdergram with Ja Rule and what you call it, Jay-Z off
Yeah.
the Streets is Watching soundtrack.
Was he on 24 Hours to Live with Mace?
I think so. I think
Was he on there? I have to
Maybe
go back and
not.
look at that. I have to go back and look. I don't remember. It's been a long time since I heard it.
That might
But
have been
nevertheless,
Black Rob, I think.
it might have been Black Rob. It might have been
Yeah.
Black Rob. Nevertheless, he was blazing a lot of joints. Another thing for context, real quick, you got a hardcore artist like DMX. He wasn't commercial. He was just so dope that he became commercial in terms of his success. That year, he sold 9 million records worldwide. 5 million for his Dark and 4 million for Flesh of My Flesh, for worldwide records. You know what I'm saying? I think one of them went gold in a week. So you're talking about major, massive. And if you think about how the record industry worked, can you imagine how much money he made for Def Jam and Rough Riders? Because at one point, I think when Def Jam was struggling around 96, I remember the rumor was when Redman dropped Muddy Waters and it went gold, it damn near saved Def Jam. So imagine you can look that up. Imagine what DMX did for that label with 9 million in record sales in 1 year, and we're not even talking about the touring.
Yep. Which is crazy in itself, like just to think about that. 9 million in 1 year from one artist on your label. And they had other hitters on a label.
A lot of hitters.
One artist doing that. DMX was he was just a beast at what he did. I think also what people have to understand about what DMX was doing at that time, like what Tone said, with him being that successful in 1998, 2 albums in the same year. This dude was new to the hip hop game. I think that's what you really got to understand. His debut album dropped that year. He's new. He doesn't have a track record where people are going to buy it because the last one was dope. He's dropping basically, in other terms, 2 debuts in 1 year, because with Tupac already had a track record, like Tone said. He Machiavelli probably came out a little bit early, probably wasn't really slated for that year, probably based off of the death of Tupac. So we can't really say that was going to happen that way. We knew Machiavelli was coming, but we didn't think it was going to happen in September.
Right.
I'm pretty sure it got pushed out the door, considering that he passed away. But DMX was new to the hip hop game as far as we knew. And he drops 2 albums in the same year on the legendary Def Jam, and he makes 9 million in record sales. Like, that's just unheard of at the time. And he kind of set a trend. But before we get into the trend real quick, Tone, I just want to get like what are your like favorite songs off of both albums?
You know what? I really like the Crime Story joint. You know what I'm saying? Crime Story is probably my favorite joint on is Dark. Like how it's going down. I thought that was a very dope single, dope for the radio, even a dope video with the vibe in the streets with the chicks and all that. I do like the joint with Jay-Z and the Locks on it. You know what I'm saying? That's that joint. It's the end of the album.
Talk about niggas that started something.
Started something. Because I started.
Jay-Z's not on there.
Not Jay.
I think it's Mace.
Yeah, that's a hard joint, man. Yeah, those are probably my favorite joints. But on the second album, man, Slipping is the one that comes to mind for me, man. That's to me, it's one of DMX top 5 songs in his whole discography for me. So I like the whole second album, but Slipping is the one that stands out. And I think there's a joint called Blackout or something like that on there with Jay-Z and the Locks. I think that's the one. You know what I'm saying? I like that joint a whole lot too. So those are probably my favorite joints on the album, man. But just solid joints all the way through, man. I mean, more or less. I like the way both albums flow.
Yeah. And for me, on It's Dark and Hell is Hot, Rough Riders Anthem, obviously.
Yeah, yeah,
Get At Me Dog,
yeah.
How's It Going Down, Crime Story. I even like ATF. That joint was all right.
That's hot. That was
Um,
very dope.
Niggas Done Started Something is really dope.
It's a
Just
monster.
sounds like a just cipher going
Yeah,
on.
it's a monster.
Love that joint. Definitely. What else? How's It Going Down? Because I was in a club, so as soon as
Right.
they put that joint on, you get your little two-step going. On Flesh of My Flesh, Blood of My Blood. My favorite joint is Keep Your Shit the Hardest.
That joint hard.
That beat, oh my
Yeah.
God. And the way DMX killed that joint, Keep Your Shit the Hardest. Like,
He wrote that beat perfectly.
man, I remember the first time I heard that joint, I couldn't even listen to the whole album because I kept running that shit back.
That's one of the best songs on the album.
Yeah, absolutely. Coming From with Mary J. Blige, another beat that's crazy,
Ooh, yeah,
piano
I
on it.
forgot about that one.
Then Mary singing, like you could tell Mary was feeling it the way she's singing on it. You know what I'm saying? No Love for Me. It kind of like that joint. The video was, 90s. It's the 90s, you know what I'm saying? Right. Blackout, like he said, with The Rock's Jay-Z, and Slipping. Man, when I first heard Slipping, I was like, yeah, he ain't no one trick pony. He'll do it all.
Yeah, he here to stay.
Yeah, definite. So Tone, 1998, DMX drops 2 albums in the same year. He's the new cat on the block, basically. He sells 9 million in record sales for Def Jam. Do people follow his lead after that and say, well, if he could do it, I could do it. I'm gonna drop 2 albums in a year?
Well, we know one legendary MC did. It might have been by default for Napster, but we know in 1999, my favorite MC, Nas, you know what I'm saying? He drops I Am early that year, like April, I believe, or something like that. And then that winter, he drops Nostradamus. Now, of course, we know that Nostradamus is probably gonna. Well, I Am Nostradamus allegedly was gonna be a double CD. All these different songs started leaking, and you get a one version of I Am, and I still thought it was very dope. Source gave it 4.5 mics, etc., etc. But then Nostradamus comes out in the fall, and it has success. Both of them end up being platinum albums. So I think that, and maybe Nas did decide at some point, you know what, I got bootleg. Him and label might have felt like, let's go ahead and just drop both albums this year. Let's drop Nostradamus before the year is up. You know what I'm saying? And that was it wasn't critically acclaimed. Even though he sold 1 million copies, it was still looked at as, hindsight 20 years later, almost that. Well, over 20 years later now, that is on the bottom tier of his discography. But he did drop 2 albums in the same year, and the record label, they feasted off of that. You know what I'm saying? They're platinum. So I think that DMX probably did influence that to a degree. I do think a few other MCs have tried that. Now, before that, Master P and No Limit was doing. They had artists dropping 2-3 albums in the same year. To be honest, in 1997, I believe, and 98, Master P had artists that were doing that, but of course they were not debuting on the billboards like that.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? So I think his biggest thing was, I think a lot of artists looked at and labels looked at him like, okay, we can find a balance where we can still have core hardcore hip hop fans, appreciating this particular artist and having stuff for the radio and the clubs while the same artist. So I think a lot of diversity. I think he pushed the meter a little bit, even with Jay-Z and Rockefeller. I think when they start looking at people like Benny Siegel, and even the way when Cameron and Dipset went to Rockefeller's, like, look, let's find a way to stay on the radio, but still have street joints. And I think DMX kind of ushered that, and still have some street joints, some radio joints, you know what I'm saying, to overall show diversity in that artist, man, and keep that different fan base, you know what I'm saying? So I think that his influence, man, was pretty evident. I think he influenced everybody. I think every major label wanted a DMX. Same way at one point every label wanted a Tupac. Def Jam looked up like Lil Cole and said, at the beginning of the litter, we got our version of Tupac. You know what I'm saying? So good luck with you finding yours. We got DMX because 12 months after Flesh of My Flesh, DMX dropped his biggest selling album in his whole career.
Mm,
And then there was X worldwide sold 6 million records.
wow.
So yeah. And they had that balance again with club joints, street joints, conscious
Mhm.
joints. Because DMX is a conscious rapper too.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I'm saying? So, yeah, man. So I think that he set that trend of, okay, let's balance this thing out. Because even years later, look at how T.I., Rick Ross, Jeezy, all these guys, they had club bangers. They had, you know what I'm saying? They had their street joints. And I think some of that still was, I want, Lil Wayne said something. Lil Wayne performed with DMX, had brought DMX on stage back in Miami, back probably, I don't know, it might have been a decade ago, at Lil Wayne Hype. And he said to DMX, "Oh, I appreciate what you did for the game. I studied your moves, yada yada yada, all of that." That was from Lil Wayne from NO. You know what I'm saying?
Mm,
So if somebody like
yeah,
Lil Wayne looked at DMX as this guy that I'm
yeah,
getting tips from and how to perform and how to put the passion in the music and all of that stuff, I think that his influence is probably underrated.
yeah. I agree. I think a lot of what like when you say him following up two highly successful albums and dropping, them in the same year, and then to well, not basically he came out with two dope albums in the same year, basically a debut, and then followed it up with a third album that was just as successful. You know what I'm saying? I think what record labels started to think about it, especially with the Nas situation, is DMX was lightning in a bottle. You know
Yeah,
what I'm saying? Like it was something that type of momentum hadn't been done before, not with three releases so close to each other and maintaining that momentum. Probably the precursor to what we have today, where, you know, artists drop albums and mixtapes that sound like albums and projects, all throughout the year. They could drop an album that has 20 songs on it and say, yo, 2 months from now, I got another joint dropping. It's just that wasn't just happening at all. And I think the thing with Nas, who we did a episode on I Am Nostradamus and what would have happened if it would have came out. So you want
yeah,
to check that out. It's in the archives of that time in hip hop. But I think with Nas, I think it was like a second thought because, like we said in that podcast, the the plan for Nas was the double album. You know what I'm saying? Because it was Pac did it, Biggie did it. Now here come Nas, he gonna do one. And because of heavy bootlegging, they had to retool. And I don't know if they felt like they didn't have the right mix for a double album, and they decided to separate the two because it had worked for DMX. So why not Nas on Columbia and Sony? Uh, but it didn't necessarily work. But again, the difference is DMX was brand new on the scene. Nas
yeah,
already had he was already a legend between It Was Written and Illmatic. Like
yep.
to most in the mixtapes and somewhat the firm album a little bit, but he was already a legend to a lot of people. So it didn't have the same impact as someone as DMX that felt fresh and new and on the scene. Now, Tone, DMX didn't just be so big that he was successful at the music. This brother then went into film and got a lot of roles and was really good. I remember I forget which movie it was where I believe he played a computer hacker. Now, he seemed like DMX as a computer hacker, but nevertheless, something about how believable he is in his music translated to the screen. What did you think about DMX, the actor, especially with Belly, uh,
Man,
versus
look,
DMX,
man,
the rapper?
because Billy came out when it was in '98 too, so it was around the same time of his height. So you got to look at he Tommy Buns, baby. You know what I'm saying? So you got DMX does a ghetto classic like Belly at the same time. He has two critically acclaimed albums, man. You just can't write this any better for him.
Mm,
And I thought that even that role as Tommy, real quick, in Belly was a little bit of X, a
mhm,
conflicted character who really was poor, really from the streets, but also had this conscious side that ended up taking control of him. You know what I'm saying?
mhm,
At the end of Belly, you know what I'm saying? I think that's still kind of the way his life is. I still feel like X got more to go in his life, where I think that he's going to be a real inspiration to some people at some point later, because the life that he did live, the fortunate and unfortunate things that he's dealt with. You know what I'm saying? So I thought that Belly was, even though we laugh about Belly as being a street hood classic, there was a little bit of honesty in that role. You know what I'm saying? So I think that is something to be said about that. Just looking at some of the stuff, man, with he was in that Romeo Must Die and Cradle to the Grave and
mm.
Never Die Alone. He was in a lot of those movies. But you know what? I thought that fitting because to me, he was kind of the new Tupac. And I remember my wife said one time, she was like, you know what? X personal life really threw him off because he was the new Tupac. She was like, yo, the women dug his style.
Mhm.
I was like, yeah, the dudes rock with him. As large as he was, it's scary to say with his Hollywood career, if his personal life would have been a little more stable, his Hollywood career, even though it was very solid, could have been even better. He could
Yeah,
have been an even bigger star. You know what I'm saying? But sometimes that man in the mirror, those demons that we all have battled before, sometimes people demons last a little longer. You know what I'm
yeah,
saying? And he goes deep into that inferno, man. And I think that unfortunately he did that, and it stifled and slowed down what he could have been in Hollywood. But it's impressive, nevertheless, that he's done a handful of movies and had some major roles with Steven Seagal and different people. He had major, it was a Jet Li. You know what I mean? He's had some major Aaliyah. You know what I'm
yeah.
saying? I mean, dude was on the big screen, man, a couple of times, man, and need I say he did okay, man. Not mad at it.
Yeah, I think he was like you said, man. He was starting to get to that point where he was transcending the music a little bit and he was starting to get to know him a little bit more because even though DMX is the type of dude who in his albums he gives you all of him, especially with like his prayer skits, which is
Yep.
something you've never heard in hip hop before. I mean, yeah,
No.
yeah, Puffy threw some joint in because it sounded hot, but no, DMX was straight up praying on these skits. But one thing, like fast forwarding a couple of years ago, from '98 till a couple of years ago from 2020, uh, but I remember DMX was going to be on couples therapy with
Yeah.
his baby moms so many years. I think it was his wife at one point, so I don't want to be disrespectful. But I was like, yo, I gotta watch this. DMX gonna be on there. Like, what is this gonna be? And I remember watching it, and I came away like feeling really sad for him because he dealt with some real issues
Yeah.
because the therapist was excellent because she was able to tap into what was wrong with DMX, like why the drug use, why the situation with his relationships and infidelity, and why was he showing out in this way. And it really, a lot of it stemmed from his relationship or lack thereof with his mother, and not necessarily not knowing his mother or her not being there or being around. It's a child. You can see in that show that DMX was a child who needed a little bit more attention than his mother was willing to give. Like, he's a sensitive brother. That's why he's so hard. It's just like Mike Tyson, very sensitive brother,
Yeah.
but because they feel like that makes them vulnerable and they don't like that feeling, they're the complete opposite when you look at DMX and Mike Tyson. And I remember his they brought his moms up, you know what I'm saying, to try to, get to the heart of it. And I remember like his moms just got right back in that bag of like treating him like barely happy to see him, talking to him like he's some ex-boyfriend somewhere who she came to pick up some money from, like just treating them really like it wasn't her son, you know what I'm saying? And I remember like when she left and DMX was heated, dude just broke down and started crying, like, and I mean bawling like a little kid. And I was thinking watching that, like, man, that's where all of that comes from. Like
That's
that's
where it
where
all come from.
all that passion in his lyrics and what he says and how he felt about his dogs, you know what I'm saying? Shows you that this was a man who needed a little bit more love in his life. And even though he kind of had it, you know, with his ex-wife or whatever.
And with his grandmother when he was younger. You remember he did the song dedicated to his grandmother
Yeah,
with Faith. You know what I'm saying? Because
yeah,
that was the only person I think he felt like really loved him. You know what I'm saying?
exactly,
Unconditionally,
exactly.
with his grandmother. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and it like just to see it. I mean, I'm pretty sure now all this stuff is like on demand or on YouTube or whatever, so you can check it out. It's couples therapy with DMX. But it was just to me, it was real. It was real telling, like to watch that
And let
and
me say something real quick. It's
Mhm.
funny that the album you have behind you right now, I think it's X fourth album, The Great Depression. You know what
Yeah.
I'm saying? Just the name of that song, I mean the album, The Great Depression, he was dealing with those emotions inside, and the track I Miss You for his grandmother was a third single on that album.
Mm,
So it
crazy.
all makes sense.
Perfect timing. See how nice DMX is, how dope he is. Like it just pops up. One quick thing about this album in particular, I felt like right before this album dropped, I was like, yeah, I think DMX is kind of burnt out. I think the streak is over. I think, like we're kind of done with it. We had enough. And I remember before this album dropped, he was on the BET Awards and he did the joint that.
We be.
You talk about, yeah,
It
who
was
we be.
hard.
You
It
talk
was hard.
about a comeback,
And the video
like
was hard.
in a record. Like in that moment, I was like, it ain't over. This record is crazy. Like, you know what I'm saying? DMX is just one of those dudes. He's a precious dude as far as hip hop. He needs
Yeah,
to,
man.
people need to, like, I mean, I see a lot of people doing it now. I think a lot of people are rooting for him. But I mean, we really need to give that man his flowers now. He's still here. He could have been gone. You know what I'm saying? The same way that ODB was gone and other, hip hop artists and artists, people in general who died in those ways, like Mac Miller. But DMX is still here. So
Yeah, man.
we gotta remember what this dude has done for the game, the records he's put out.
I
You know what I'm
love
saying?
DMX, man. Shout out to DMX for real. I'm a DMX fan, bro. Straight up.
Yeah, man.
I rock with X.
And
Anytime I see him
I'm
trending, I'm hoping this not bad news, man. I always used to be on
yeah,
the edge of. At one point, I was on the edge. Every time I saw a DMX store, I'm like, hope X all right. You know what I'm saying?
yeah.
Because even though I don't know the brother, I ain't never met the brother. You know what I'm saying? But I got two friends who have met him, and they said, yo, they met him. Dude was very genuine, man. Dude was real solid, man. You know what I'm saying? And
Mhm.
X is like one of the people like Bernie Mac. You know what I'm saying? Like you don't know him, he's kind of like your third cousin that you ain't met before. You know what I'm saying? So if something happened to X, man, people will really hurt a lot of people, man. So I'm hoping X, man, blessings to DMX, man. Hope everything is on the up and up for the brother.
And the good thing is he's working on an album or a project with Swiss Beats and whomever else. So hopefully we get that. He did put out some music a couple of years ago that was sounding like old X, but I was hoping we could get, it was a mixtape. But I was hoping we could get something more official where he can and we can get something dope, man. But if you're watching this and you got all these DMX memories in your head, or maybe you discovered him, because you're younger or whatever, what did you think about the year 1998? DMX dropping two debut albums, if you ask me, within the same year. Did you buy both? Were you on the train of DMX Darkman X? You know what I'm saying? Leave your comments in the comment section below. But now we like to get into a part of the show where we like to recommend something you should go back and listen to. And my recommendation is Slum Village, Fantastic Volume 2 out of the year 2000. Yes, this is the version that had Jay Dilla in the group. This was probably the album that made me a fan of not just Jay Dilla, but Slum Village as a whole, because I was like, what is this? And these beats are crazy. Some of my favorite songs off of here being Climax. That beat is ridiculous. Uh, what else is on here? Fall in Love, Get This Money. I used to use that instrumental for Get This Money every time I did a break on a hip hop show I used to host. Players, just so many dope tracks. They even had an anniversary edition that came out, I think the 20-year anniversary or 15, that had instrumentals to all of the records on the album. Very dope, you know what I'm saying? Lyricism, beats, soulful. Guest appearances include uh De La Soul to Busta Rhymes to Q-Tip to D'Angelo, Jazzy Jeff. Very, very dope album. If you haven't heard it, now's your time to go listen to it. Tone, what did you think about Slum Village? Fantastic, Volume 2. And what's your recommendation for this time?
Man, Fantastic Volume 2 is very dope. You know what I'm saying? I mean, the rhymes was dope, but of course, Jay Dilla, you know what I'm saying, doing what he do. One of my
Mm,
favorite projects produced by Dilla. And I mean, it's a dope album. It's an underground classic. It has some dope joints on that end up, singles and stuff like that, man. And my favorite joint on there, real quick, is this joint called "Get This Money." You know what I'm
yeah.
saying? And to this day, that's still my favorite Slum Village song in general. But so yeah, man, I thought it was very dope, man. Slum Village made their mark on the underground, well respected by a lot of people during that time, and even to this date, that's their landmark, magnum opus for their group. You know what I'm saying?
Mm,
And yeah, man, very dope. For me, I'm going back to 1985 Run DMC King of Rock album. They're a follow up to their classic Run DMC self titled album, which is probably the first album I fell in love with. And so to follow that up with King of Rock, I thought was a strong follow up. They were the Kings of Rock, you know what I'm saying? At
yeah.
that time for our culture, they were the gods of the culture of the new era. I mean, they ushered in the new not Def Jam era, but they were, they were the faces of the culture at
Mm,
the time, even though Def Jam was the largest label. LL Cool J was part of the face of Def Jam. But at that time, Run DMC was the gods of rap. And,
yeah.
you never know how someone going to follow up a classic, monumental, landmark debut like the Run DMC self-titled album. But King of Rock, man, they had several tracks on MTV. They was on the radio. They was touring big with the King of Rock. Some of my joints on there, man. I like Can You Rock It Like This was part of the song. I knew
Mm,
every word to. I love that joint, man. And title track, King of Rock, man. The video, they was rocking the, what I'm
mm,
saying, the rock and roll flavor with the leather pants, man, with Adidas. Jam Master Jay had them looking real funky and smooth. Day was the one that was behind the image and stuff like that. But yeah, man, that was a dope album. All music, I think, gave it 5 stars that they did the debut. Man, you remember the King of Rock, man? I mean, I was a young shorty, man, but my brother was a DJ at the time, so
yeah.
I used to scratch the record up whenever he would go leave the house.
Yeah, man, like 1985 this comes out, and people, you gotta understand, man, if you don't know your hip hop history, which we're not scorning you for not knowing, because that's why you're here. But man, 1985, Run DMC was like it, like, you know what I'm saying? Like the look, the attitude. If you wanted to look at an image and say what is hip hop, you know what I'm saying? All you had to do was look at Run DMC, the swagger, the different rhyme styles, the dope DJ, you know what I'm saying? The Adidas, everything. And I wasn't the type of person at that time, because I was young also, but I wasn't the type of kid to say, oh, why they rapping with them rock beats and stuff like that, because it all kind of worked, you know what I'm saying? And I think it's something that Run DMC to pioneer as far as rappers rapping over the rock sound and beats, as far as making it popular, because people went on to do rock mixes of hits, like All About the
Yeah,
Benjamins had a rock mix, which is pretty dope. MOP did like a heavy metal album, really on the low. A lot of people don't know about that. So it was one of those things where it was like Run DMC could do anything and everything. They were a team. And I just remember when that album came out, I had a lot of like older people, hip hop heads around me that loved Run DMC, so I would hear everything was new. Like hearing their reaction to the records just would get me hyped, and I just felt like, you know, Run DMC couldn't do any wrong. It was they were kind of somewhat on that same streak that DMX was on, where song after song, album after album, you were like, man, I don't think they're gonna fall off at any point. So yeah, man, classic album, man. Kings of Rock, Run DMC, 1985, Slum Village, the year 2000, Fantastic Volume 2. Two albums you should go check out, you know what I'm saying? Two different times in hip hop, like crazy, 85 to 2000, man. So you really a hip hop head, you can sit down and listen to those two and just really vibe and rock to them, man. But let us know what you thought about those two albums in the comment section below. Please know that we are here all the time with more episodes. This is like episode 54, something like that. So after you watch this, you can watch everything we talked about. We done created the DNA where a lot of things we touched on, we got 4 episodes on, including Master P. So subscribe to the channel, hit that like button, leave a comment if you will. And please know you can watch or listen to my podcast, Hip Hop Now Podcast, available wherever you listen to podcasts, or you can visit intothedome.com and check out all of the great articles Tony have there about different music genres, not just hip hop, but a lot of dope stuff. And probably one of my favorites is Rakim is like the Miles Davis of hip hop, because man, that is so true. And if you don't know who Miles Davis is, well, just go on Netflix, watch The Birth of Cool. You'll know how you'll see the correlation between a genius and a genius. On behalf of the homie Tone of intothedome.com, I'm Vegas, and until next time, y'all, go out and support real hip hop. Drink some water. Stop buying all the tissue up and all that stuff.
Yeah.
Peace.
Drop it on the random.